Houston, we have a problem.
I feel the need for speed. Ow!
My mom always said life was like a box of chocolates.
Help me help you.
You are a toy!
My team is dead!
There's no crying in baseball!
Relax. This pot is making you aggressive.
Wilson!
You complete me.
Hello and welcome back to We Bought a Mic, a pop culture podcast, a Tom Culture Tomcast.
Tom Culture Tom. That's good.
Setting the stage, rolling out the red carpet, cracking open a cold one with the Toms. Introducing, setting the stage for this new series, this new era for We Bought a Mic. Tom v. Tom, a tale of two Toms.
Cruisemas
With
with the Hanks. There was a time that Ernest was dead set on calling this whole thing Cruisemas with the Hanks.
And you're probably thinking to yourself, like, wait, are Tom Cruise and Tom Hanks in the film Christmas with the Cranks? No, they definitely were not. They were not present in the film.
But goddamn, you put an idea in this man's head. He cannot shake it.
I was incepted. Welcome. My name's Ernest.
My name is Tom Tur.
I don't have a... And I'm Tom. So, really excited for the series. Very excited. Last time we left our fate up to the listeners. Huge mistake.
We are never giving you that much power again. That was
Robin Williams won the bracket.
I may have stumped really hard for him to win, and I may have ended up regretting that a little bit. But
Yeah, you know what? It did seem very promising when he won. Like it was a big moment of celebration. And then we struggled to hit like a 50% success rate on that series.
I think that there was a point in time, like right before we started this, where it was just like, you know what? At least this will be fun. It's a lot of fun kids movies. So at least if we're watching bad movies, there'll be bad, fun kids movies.
Yeah.
And it turns out there's a lot more to that
there's,
filmography.
a lot going on.
We learned from our last mistake, and we decided let's just play the hits.
Well,
that's what people came for.
But also we should mention Cage. Because I think Cage was a much shorter series. I think almost 10 or 11 movies shorter than Robin.
That's crazy.
And we left a lot of great Cage movies on the table that we didn't cover. I think Cage was still a mixed bag of sorts of an arc, a career arc.
I
loved
loved that whole series.
Yeah.
though.
Yeah.
It was,
And I think now going into Tom and Tom, it is very much a reaction to the high volume of caca garbage that we did with Robin. And it is just like, all right, let's try to make sure that if we leave anything out, it's not going to be the golden stuff. Let's make sure we grab all the golden stuff. So what we're going to do on this episode is it's a pre-cap. It's a prepper. It's a preview episode to go through the list of movies that we're going to cover. And let's see, another 26. I think Robin was 26 or 27. So it's going to be another 26, but it's two actors. It's a double stack combo series.
And I think different from Cage and especially from Robin, we, instead of looking at trying to capture the full scope of their career from where they started to their highs, their lows, their rebounds, if they exist, we're just focusing on the glory years.
Yeah.
Late 80s, 88 to be specific, to the year 2000.
Right. 2002.
2002.
I think is Catch Me If You Can is the last one. But yeah, I do think that there may be some surprises. You know, there's my Letterboxd list. According to this, I've only seen 50% of these movies. So there's going to be some first time watches here. So it's not like we're setting this up to be all bangers. I'm sure that there's going to be some ups and downs. But I think the initial concept for this was if you just look at Tom Hanks's 90s run, that's just a series waiting to happen. Like that was kind of Tom Hanks I think was he was definitely in the final 4 of the bracket. Tom Cruise was number 2, and then I think Will Smith and Tom Hanks were 3 and 4.
I think you're right about that.
If I remember correctly.
Yeah. And so I got to give it to you, Ernest. You were able to identify that 2 of those 4 people had the same name.
Yeah. And the same like range of skin color.
Yeah. And similar arcs to their oeuvre.
Listen,
which means eggs.
By the time we're done with this series, nobody will remember the slap. So then maybe we can revisit the Will Smith bucket. We can go
Will
back
Smith
in
is
there.
another one. When you look at his 90s.
Wait, we'll do a Will Smith, Will Ferrell bracket next.
Really excited for this series because, like you said, like if you start from the idea of 90s Hanks and then expand, you're going to have a good time because it's probably the best 10-year run that any actor has ever had.
I think that's one of the big questions of this series.
It's really the only way you'd be able to dispute that, I think, is if you went back to someone in like the 50s or something. You know what I mean? Like if you go back to like Jimmy Stewart, maybe he had a decade of just pure heaters, but I'm sure that there were plenty of forgotten. You know, Hanks just didn't miss for a decade.
Mm-hmm. That's the thing, is like it's one after another.
Mm-hmm.
I think if you started with
really it starts with, what is it, A League of Their Own that really, really starts the run. There's a little bit in the 80s that we're at, 80s, early 90s that we touch on.
Yeah, so
here.
it's like League of Their Own, Sleepless in Seattle, Philadelphia, Forrest Gump, Apollo 13, Toy Story, That Thing You Do, Saving Private Ryan, You've Got Mail, Toy Story 2, The Green Mile, Castaway.
Castaway is the end.
Yeah. I mean, that's a lot of fucking movies.
Yeah, and that's outrageous.
We are skipping a couple. We're not doing The Green Mile, unfortunately. That one got cut. And we're not doing Toy Story 2, although I'm sure there's going to be plenty of Toy Story talk in the Toy Story episode that we do.
We'll talk toys.
Yeah.
It's gonna be really fun to watch. It's gonna be because we're sort of alternating, right? Are we going just pure chronological, or are we alternating Tom to Tom?
It's chronological, yeah.
So it's gonna be interesting to compare and contrast these 2 Toms because there are you really couldn't pick 2 more different white boys.
Well, it's gonna, you're right. It is interesting. I think starting the series off, we are starting with 3 Tom Cruise movies.
Yeah, because he got going early.
He got going early, and he was just one of those things where, coming out of Risky Business in 1983, it was like, this is our next movie star. He is the anointed one. He got his teeth fixed. We're ready to go. And then we have Top Gun, Color of Money, and Rain Man coming out there. Also Cocktail, another just banger in the late 80s. But he takes the movie star route in the 90s. And not to say that they both take movie star routes, but Tom Cruise, the bug that is in him to this day, it weasels its way up early on in his career, where he's just like, put me in your action star ring role. That's
but
where I want
the ascent that he takes in the 90s, it's like, I think part of the question of this series is like, who has the better 90s run? Because you look at Tom's 90s and it's like A Few Good Men, Mission Impossible, Jerry Maguire, Eyes Wide Shut. Like, that is a heater that we don't have a Tom. That's not the same Tom we have right now.
Right.
We have an entirely different Tom. So it's like, you know, that's the other thing about the specific era we're picking, is these guys have been working for so long that they've had multiple career arcs, right? The Hanks and the Cruise that we have right now, you know, the Maverick and the Colonel Elvis manager
and the man called Otto.
Yeah.
Exactly. They're entirely different.
They are, and particularly it's going to be fun to talk about with Cruise, because you're really right, and the narrative about him, his personal life is so entangled with what has become of his movie career, and I think the result is sort of like a rewriting of history as to what he was, because now he is seen as a freak that we love. He is
we like that he's crazy.
He is inherently not relatable. He is more superhuman than anything. He is so way too intense. Here's the thing. A, he wasn't always this far gone in that direction. B, even if he was, it was the 80s. Like movie stars, male, like masculine movie stars were not human beings in the 80s. Like Arnold wasn't relatable in the fucking, you know what I mean? Like, so the entire identity of what a movie star meant changed from the 80s to the 90s. And so it's interesting that Tom got to really, get himself into both of those decades a little bit more than Hanks did. Hanks came in the comedy route. It's
interesting too, just looking at them, because Tom Cruise just happened to kind of come around at this perfect point in time where if he comes in a little bit earlier or a little bit later, sure, he still probably would always become a movie star. But if you just like look at him and the characters that he plays, most of the time he's like an asshole. He's playing unrelatable in his movies. Like in Rain Man, he's not like a good dude. Right. Even like in something like Top Gun, like Maverick's an asshole. That's his whole thing, is like he's this guy who's just so arrogant and full of himself and just like thinks that he knows everything. Where Hanks, on the other hand, is just lovable from like the first day that you see him. And something like Splash or something like Big, it's just like, oh, look, who is that man? I love him immediately.
I just watched Splash for the first time this week. Little prep homework. There's some parts of his performance that come off a little snarky, a little edgy. Like he's not fully like America's uncle yet when he's young. And I am going to be interested to see how that comes off in these earlier movies like Big and A League of Their Own. Because, I think once you start to get into the meat of the era, the Meg Ryan movies, Forrest Gump, all that stuff, you have already an established vibe that you're going to get from Hanks. And I think in the early stuff, he was still trying to figure that out.
That's definitely true. It's weird how he came into the like via genre the way that he got into stardom. Because
Happy Days, right?
Happy Days,
Guest Spot,
and then Bosom Buddies.
Dude, Bosom Buddies.
Let's watch some Bosom Buddies.
We should.
Are we allowed?
Do our homework.
I think
we're in Florida.
You were only allowed to like laugh at 3 things in the 80s, and one of them was man dressing as lady. That was like one of the main things.
I'm very curious to see like how that show holds
so
up.
Bosom Buddies is a sitcom that Tom Hanks starred in. It was a pretty successful show.
2 seasons.
Yeah, network,
37 episodes.
Network comedy where him and another funny guy who is lost to the sands of time.
Hey man, Peter Scolari.
Oh yeah.
They,
in order to live in women's housing, they dress as women.
Well, it's cheap housing.
Yeah,
that's meant for women.
Yeah, it's not just so they can like get some punani. Come on.
So it's like
it's a network show.
It's like a I now pronounce you Chuck and Larry situation, where actually it's pretty progressive for the time.
Yeah, Tom ends up realizing that this is right. No, that's not true. So that's a very traditional route to movie stardom is starring in a show then moving into it. What's not traditional, especially for the 80s and 90s, is the vast majority of people who went sitcom and then movies started in stand-up. Your Tim Allen, Robin, Bob's, all of them, all of them. He wasn't a stand-up. He also got heavily into acting way later in life than a lot of people. And it just became like a hunger for him, an obsession where I know he used to like just go see shows in LA and just sit in the back row and like every single night of his life, and just like absorb acting. And it's fun because, for example, like, especially when we go back to the 80s, he's duking it out for all of these roles with Michael Keaton.
Yeah.
Like they were equivalents, kind of exact equivalents, except Michael Keaton was known as like, zany, crazy guy.
Well, Keaton is much more of something closer to a chameleon. Like you always see Keaton, but I think Tom Hanks would never do Beetlejuice, for example.
Well, yeah, no, Keaton
would never do Batman.
Keaton was like an edgier, like zany, manic stand-up comedian. Like he was a wild guy.
But Hanks is just one of those guys where you just always see Hanks.
Yeah,
That's
that's the thing. He has this trustworthiness to him, and it's a relatability that you can't teach. I'm sure that if you really wanted to go nuts and bolts, I'm sure you could, but like he's got it, whatever it is. It's whatever exact number of attractiveness you have to be to not be too intimidating,
right?
But still be like able to look at.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? He had that.
He's right on the line. Right on the line.
That's what I was saying the other day about like us having to stare at these guys' faces for the next like year and a half, you know?
You are right though that especially for movie stars, because Robin was different, because Robin often at his best was not the starring role in a movie, and both of these guys thread the needle where it's like not so much girls want to be with them, guys want to be them, but there is a little bit of that in both of them, that girls just want a guy like Tom Hanks, and especially in the 90s, girls were wanting Tom Cruise, but guys were just like, he's 5'3". I'm not threatened by him, but he is a badass still, so I do want to be like Ethan Hunt.
I mean, to me, the magic of Tom Cruise is a type of person that only exists in the movies. Like Tom Cruise outside of the movies is an alien. Tom Cruise.
Have you seen him try to talk without like Chris McQuarrie as handler there? Like he doesn't know
Popcorn.
what to do.
I love popcorn.
He's just see you at the movies.
Popcorn. Within the frame of a motion picture, there is no one like Tom Cruise. You cannot replicate the magic of how he exists within the context of the frame. And that's something I'm fascinated by, like how he as a person can exist as an extension of movie making, right? And it's almost like he's like a perfectly created biological specimen specifically for cinema.
Well, especially because, I mean, I don't know if we're going to have the same parallels for Tom Hanks as directly, but Tom Cruise has the most like linear thing in his filmography where you can track his movies to where he is professionally in his life.
Right.
Color of Money is fucking literally Paul Newman handing over the ranks, says, here you are the next great movie star that we have in this world. Fast forwarding to something like Eyes Wide Shut, it is just like, you are a man who's going through a divorce and going through a crisis right now, and we're going to capture this on film.
Yeah, with the woman you're going through this
and
with.
That's just something that you see throughout his entire career. Tom Hanks doesn't quite have that. I think because Tom Hanks he just kind of is more. It's weird how you say that Tom Cruise only exists in the movies. I feel like Tom Hanks in a lot of ways exists so much outside of the movies.
You'd want to hang out with him.
And I think a lot of that might be kind of jumping off of something that you were saying, Drew, about him coming in a little bit older. Like when Sleepless in Seattle came out, Tom Hanks was 37 years old. That doesn't happen today. That it's just like, this man is going to be the new face of rom-coms and he's almost 40. Like, can you imagine that just can't happen now?
He has that face. It's like a baby face. And that's part of what people loved about him. He had that older kind of warmth, but
great voice.
Yeah.
Yeah. We'll get into it when we talk about Woody, about if that's like one of the greatest voice performances ever in an animated film.
So a little bit about these guys, like, pre-superstardom. Tom Hanks from California, pretty, kind of basic suburban California upbringing. Tom Cruise, a little bit more interesting, from New York, and initially wanted to become a priest.
Yeah.
With the Catholic Church.
He would end up like first reforming himself. That's not intense enough for him. He would have to do something fucking crazy.
He moved around a lot, and yeah, he was like, I am going to become a Catholic priest. But apparently he got kicked out of the seminary due to drinking alcohol.
Yeah.
So real cool guy there.
Yeah.
He also played football. He was a varsity linebacker.
Just man, he was how bad was this fucking school that he was 5'6" and a linebacker? Like that team did not win a single game.
Also got kicked off the team for drinking alcohol.
Let's go.
Yeah.
Straight partier. Well, good thing that he found religion later on in life.
Oof, yeah. He was in some bit parts in movies like Taps and The Outsiders.
He's a little bit more than a bit part in The Outsiders.
Okay.
He's
I
like,
haven't seen it in a while.
I haven't seen it either, but I'm pretty sure he plays like one of like the bully. Like he has lines in that, but it's really Risky Business. Risky Business is the one that.
Which unfortunately we're not covering.
Have you guys seen Risky Business?
Yes.
Okay.
Great fucking
Have you ever
movie.
seen Risky? Drew, you got to see Risky Business. That is.
Maybe that'll be Patreon content.
It's really one of those things where it's. Everybody knows the the like classic
The underwear
slide scene, but that scene is like, or that movie is pretty dark, and it's pretty much just like what happens if you were to let a high schooler like go wild and go unleashed, and how that could go wrong if maybe he started dating a prostitute and
it's a
things go off the rails a
genuinely
little bit.
awesome Tom Cruise performance.
Yeah. It's one of those things that you can see immediately why everybody was like, we have to put this guy in the face of everything.
Instant superstar. He's also in this movie called All the Right Moves. And yeah, that leads directly. Legend. There's also Legend, the Ridley Scott movie in there, which I've always wanted to see. I'm definitely going to try to check that one out as we lead up here. And then it's really Top Gun that kind of puts him on the map, and we're off from there. Back to Hanks again. Like I said, pretty standard upbringing. He apparently is a distant cousin of Abraham Lincoln and Fred Rogers.
You just sound like his like ancestry.com page.
It's
right
on
now.
the Wikipedia.
What was he doing before he was acting? Because he got into this so late in the game.
Let's see. He apparently was pretty religious as well. Catholic, Mormon, evangelical in his kind of teenage years. Then he got into acting in the school plays. And eventually just came up to New York City and started just trying it out, and ended up in this slasher movie called He Knows You're Alone. So just kind of bit parts here and there until eventually he landed Bosom Buddies. And I guess it was one of those things where like he just kind of bounced around doing bit parts here and there until the Happy Days guest appearance. I guess he had Bosom Buddies to keep him going as a steady paycheck. But he plays this friend of Fawn's on Happy Days. And I guess people fucking love the shit out of that appearance. And he just gets splash directly off of that. A Ron Howard picture. And Splash is an interesting movie. I don't think it's very good. I didn't really like it that much. But it gives me an appreciation for the 80s. And in the 80s, people were fucking crazy, dude. They were like, yeah, we'll make a movie about a guy that falls in love with a mermaid, and it'll be the weirdest shit ever. And they'll jump into the Hudson River at the end, and there'll be like coral everywhere and a shipwreck.
Guess who wrote that movie? Who, by the way, that he, I don't know if you said, but they were both writers on Happy Days that ended up writing Splash.
Grazer, Friedman, and Gons.
Lowell Gons, Babalu Mandel, writers of Robots 2006.
No way.
Yo, there's the connection.
It all comes back. Oh my God. Nominated for Best Original Screenplay at the 1985 Academy Awards. Holy crap. The 80s were different, dude. I don't understand. I mean, the movie's not terrible. It's just, to me, it hasn't aged super well.
Made money.
It made solid money.
It was profitable. They actually, It's funny. I'm reading the book Disney War right now, and in it one of not Iger fucking Eisner. One of Eisner's like go-to references for like movies that he wants to make in the 90s is just like, we have to find our splash. We got to find the easy hits, our singles.
Well,
$11 million budget makes $70 million.
No one expected this movie to be a hit. It was like top 20 of the year or top 15 of the year.
Yeah, this is definitely the type of movie that a lot of people learn bad lessons from. Right. They're like, oh, we could do that, right?
It has some solid stuff. Like, you got John Candy in there. Eugene Levy is like the quote unquote villain. He's like the scientist that's trying to expose this woman for being a mermaid. He like needs to show the world like, that woman's a mermaid. Those feet aren't feet. There's a fin in there. I'm not crazy. And Eugene Levy's just great at doing stuff like that. But it's just, the movie is just, I don't know. There's something about it that's like, yeah, this is very 80s, and it kind of belongs in its time period.
I feel like that's how I feel about a lot of 80s and frankly 90s romances, where I love Sleepless in Seattle. I haven't seen it since I was a kid, so I'm excited to revisit. But something like You Got Mail, fucking love You Got Mail. That movie is so deeply 90s that you can just feel the age on like everything that it touches. Yeah. And it's the same way with a lot of those 80s.
Yeah, I feel like we watched a lot of those with Robin and Cage. Just the ones that maybe worked at the time and you could see why people would have dug this, but now it just hasn't aged super well. And I'm sure there's people out there that have nostalgia for Splash or
there's like an Eisenhower joke in there and you're like, I bet that killed in the theater.
It's just there's like the Disney of it all, of them like apparently censoring her butt and her nipples, which like I didn't even catch. I figured there was something off.
Yeah, right.
Yeah, it wasn't just like black bars came onto the screen for you.
I guess they like CGI extended her hair or something. But Hanks is good in the movie.
And this is why hair is striking right now, because that hair wasn't paid properly. That wig was not compensated.
Hanks is good, and Daryl Hannah's good. The woman that plays the mermaid. It's just, they end up in the water swimming around, and then the movie ends, and you're just like, what? What?
This sounds great. I don't know what you're talking about.
That's it.
I'm into it.
They're love it. Swimming in the Hudson River. There's like dead bodies in there. What's going on? The credits are rolling. I have so many questions.
It is funny that you can tell that, like, if it's interesting to think about what if Splash didn't work and Splash wasn't a hit, because it's 4 years in between Splash coming out and Tom Hanks's next actual, really, no pun intended, big movie, which is Big.
Which we are covering.
That's going to be our entrant into his career. But it's different where Cruise, I feel like people kind of from the get-go were willing to like just force Tom Cruise into everything. Like, we are going to make this guy a movie star. Where with Hanks, since he is a little bit older, maybe if Splash is like a bomb, then does Tom Hanks ever become Tom Hanks?
Maybe not. I mean, I feel like if he doesn't even get Splash at all, he doesn't become Tom Hanks. It's tough to say, hypotheticals, but I feel like
this is why Hanks is interesting, is because there's a lot of happenstance in his career. He's not like he's not like an English theater like 4-year-old who just like was in the system, you know, like he wasn't getting cast in plays in like college or high school. He had to go to community theater. Like he just kept going. Do
you think that it was a problem for him that he was 6 foot? He was actually too tall.
Yeah.
I think it was probably a problem for him that he like was like kind of a lead, but not really, which ended up being his biggest weapon, is that like he's not what your traditional lead.
I think still to this day, that's his secret weapon.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying.
He's still going.
It ended up
still a man called Otto.
it just ended up striking a chord that people were really looking for. And you know, there obviously had been those types before in Hollywood, but he was a really interesting type of dude. He was like, yeah, like relatively speaking, he was tall, he was lanky and skinny,
Right.
in his early roles. I'm really, really excited for Big because I haven't seen it in a long, long time. That movie is a massive precursor to so many 90s comedies.
Yeah.
Like to so many Jim Carrey and Adam Sandler movies. Like it's so premise heavy. The like because of supernatural forces, a guy is gonna have to act really goofy
Right.
for the whole movie. Like
honestly, that's kind of how I feel about Splash too, which makes me a little worried about Big. Am I gonna feel
you're
that
gonna
way about
feel a
Big,
little
too?
weird at times, I'll tell you that much.
Well,
There's
yeah.
an amount of that boy is having sex going
Yeah.
on for sure.
right?
It's a little bit of Jack coming through
Sure.
again. Jack is okay. Is Big better than Jack? I know we're gonna have this discussion on the Big Pod, but is Big better than Jack because she didn't know that he was a little boy? Where in Jack, she fully knew that was a child
Right.
that she was trying to make moves on.
Did
but
she?
but one of them looks like Tom Hanks and the other one looks like Robin
Wait,
Williams. So.
are you talking
she
about
didn't-
Jennifer Lopez?
She did not
Yeah.
know he was a child in
Did
Jack.
she not? I forgot. I
She's
thought
the
that she was.
teacher.
Yeah, she was a teacher, so she knew.
But there's the mom.
But she
That's
wasn't-
right,
She
the
wasn't making
mom-
moves on him.
They were just vibing.
The mom was making moves on
The
him.
The
mom was
mom of
trying-
the friend.
Yeah.
And she knew.
No, J-Lo
She
knew,
knew.
and J-Lo didn't care. J-Lo like was not trying to fuck Jack. We don't need to cancel. If we say that, she's done.
I'm not going to cancel JLo. I'm trying to cancel the mom.
J-Lo was just trying to ask Jack about a little friend in Southie that he might have a couple years down the road.
Yeah. We'll cross that big bridge whenever we get to it. I'm really excited for Big. I was in a theatrical production of a musical Big
Oh, really?
back in the day.
Who'd you play?
I don't remember. Like fucking.
Sounds like not the lead.
I
You didn't
think
play Big?
I think his name was like Johnny Biggs. I can't remember though. It'll come to me. No, I love Big. Big's gonna be
Is
great.
Big more of like a 13 going on 30 situation?
I mean, yeah, pretty much. It's an
Yeah.
adult who is a kid and
Right.
and is like in an adult's body and is being goofy and silly.
Right.
And there is some horniness that you really just don't want to see.
Just don't want to think about it too
Because
much.
Jack is like sad because he's sick. He has like a disease and he's gonna die.
But yeah, in Big, there's no progeria in sight. Like there is not even a mention of progeria.
And Biggie's just like, actually, this is working out best for me to just
Yeah.
not experience
Is Bill
childhood.
Cosby farting in a treehouse in Big, or is that a different?
It would be
No.
easier to list movies where he's not doing
No,
it. He's
yeah.
doing that in so many movies.
I think it's like, I can't remember if it's Louis or if it's Kevin Spacey that's in Big. It's one of them.
So
man.
excited for that. Yeah, it is. It's like a he like it's like a fortune teller wish thing that makes
Right.
it happen. That's gonna be a fun one.
But yeah, just to tie off the point you made about like premise heavy, that's something that I feel like is sort of lost in modern movies, where people were just okay with telling stories that would never happen in real life.
yeah,
You know,
well,
and it doesn't have to be like heavy fantasy. Like Splash doesn't come off as heavy fantasy. It's just like, oh yeah, there's a mermaid. There's a mermaid. That's it.
that's fair. As far as is like premise heavy, story heavy type movies, the way Big is, where like Big like. I think Big is used a lot as an example in like Save the Cat, because it is such like you hear the premise and the movie sort of unfurls itself to you in your head, and all the scenes that you're thinking of are the scenes in the movie. You
And
know what I
they're
mean?
fun to watch.
Because
You're thinking, oh, it would be great for a movie to be about this that would never happen in real life.
And-
It's fun to see.
well, so the thing is, I genuinely think with things that specific, there is a finite amount of great examples before you start doing pretty overlappy things like 13 going on 30 that's the
Gardner.
Are you thinking about Freaky Friday?
yeah, Freaky Friday is another great one. Yeah, there's a finite amount until you are doing something that is going to be sold as similar to X.
Sure.
So I mean, Jim Carrey got in a lot of those while he could. Like a guy who can't lie, a guy who has to say yes. You know what I mean? Like a guy who is God or whatever.
Guy who
and that's-
is God.
And the thing is that like those movies are gone now. Like
Well,
it's just
'cause-
like guy is superhero.
Well,
there you
because
go.
what's the like? What else do
It's-
you do?
Well, what you're getting at is like the idea of fantastical ideas within a real world. Now it's just all fantasy. It's all realm. You gotta just go full realm if you're making a fantasy,
Disgusting.
or you have to make something like very grounded and
Yeah.
gritty.
Is this when we plug our new T-shirt design?
Let's go.
Yeah. I do.
Realm Free Zone. coming
I
soon.
do think that, well, both Tom Cruise and Tom Hanks, we're going to touch on it. I'm sure that we'll do like a post wrap up episode whenever we're done with this in like 7 years. But
By
what
the
happens?
time I'm celebrating my 5-year wedding anniversary.
What happens like after these guys' careers is so fascinating. I think that we're going to have to do a Patreon exclusive just on Chet Hanks content.
Oh my god!
Well, we're definitely
Colin Hanks gets like the last like 5 minutes of
yeah,
that
we'll be
episode.
like, that's cute for him. We're gonna have to do a breakdown, like a full hour and a half long breakdown of the Oprah, the Tom Cruise Oprah.
That
It's-
is
to this day is still like one of the most insane things ever. Like it's if you haven't seen
stupendous.
it lately,
Yeah,
go back,
I've-
watch
I've-
the full clip.
I know. If you haven't, first of all, I've told listeners of this pod to watch that full
Yeah.
Oprah segment so many times. Please go watch it. It is a guy who is
I'm in
out
love.
of his mind.
yeah. It
What
is
can I say? I'm in love.
it is someone with too many manically positive chemicals in his brain to the point that you know he can swing the other way. You know that it's not always sunshine. You know what I mean? There's just not. That's not sustainable.
Poor Katie.
Broken flip.
Oh, brother.
Anyway, it is interesting. Another, speaking of the 80s being different, just built different, big Oscar nomination for Hanks.
Dude,
What the
I
hell?
mean, come on.
What the hell, guys? Come on.
Back when like people respected comedies.
yeah, and then from there, that's his like takeoff point. Really is
Yeah,
big.
we're off.
Yeah, that's the movie star, and then he gets into he dips into dramas.
Also nominated for writing.
Yeah. Also, I mean, ends up directing That Thing You Do, which by all accounts,
So excited to cover that movie.
Yep.
Heard-
I've never seen That Thing You Do. That's
We've
a
been
blind spot in the
petitioned left and right to cover that movie. I mean, there's a lot of movies on this series that are going to be first time watches. Let's see if I can pick out all of them. So obviously we start out with Top Gun. I've seen that one. Color of Money next. Never seen it.
me neither.
Martin Scorsese.
No.
Then we're doing Rain Man, which I think a lot of
Rain
it
Man
will
rips.
come back to me. That's going to be one of those where like I can't recall a lot of it, but when I sit down and watch it, I'm going to be like, oh, that's the blackjack scene.
Yeah.
Oh, that's the count.
I'm-
yeah.
I'm so excited to watch it because I feel like as the years have gone on, obviously this is a movie that Hoffman won Best Actor for, but this is like
Give it to
the
Tommy.
first time
Give it to
where Tom
Tommy.
really shows like, oh, Tom's got the juice not just to be like movie star. He could be great dramatic actor.
I just thought of a great. I'll just
What?
say, what's the more impressive feat in that movie? Is it Dustin Hoffman playing an autistic person, or Tom Hanks playing someone who's not autistic? Tom
That's
Cruise.
good. That makes me want to reevaluate like some of this earlier Tom stuff. To
But-
see like what the energy is. Like is he like heavy on the spectrum in Legend? Really want to watch Legend.
he does have a special interest in The Color of Money. His special interest is pool. His
Right.
whole life is pool.
Well, it's also like I said, like movie stardom, male action movie stardom back then, like it has a sort of spectrum element to
Yeah.
it,
Right.
where like
You're very passionate
Well,
about one thing.
yeah, what used to be like the hallmark of like a true man was being hyper focused on your mission at hand,
Yeah.
you know, and nothing else,
And it's
like
impossible.
and
And
not
that's-
letting emotions get in the
Hey,
way.
that's coming later on.
Yeah.
Okay.
So then Big.
Then,
Then back to I can't say Tom. I gotta.
I know.
It's a cruise. And
Back
we're
to
gonna
Cruise
be,
with Born on the 4th of July, which I've never seen.
this is a big blind spot for me. I'm really
Yeah, Oliver
excited to dive
Stone.
into.
Joe versus the Volcano.
Oh yeah,
Back to Hanks there.
I'm excited for that.
Yeah,
A Few Good Men. Aaron Sorkin.
Stone Cold classic. Can't
Never
wait.
seen that movie. That's
You
Cruise.
guys have never seen A Few
Nope.
Good Men? Oh man, I'm excited for you guys to watch.
What are we,
that
a
movie
movie
rules
podcast?
so hard.
A League of Their Own after
Nice.
that.
Let's
Back
go.
to Hanks.
So
Then-
we're so far. Take note at like the types of movies we've been seeing. Started on a way more serious note for Cruise, and Hanks has been slowly delving into a little bit more. A League of Their Own. We're still playing in a comedic area.
Right.
So then we go The Firm for Cruise.
The Firm, which I've never seen. I did not expect us to be covering The Firm on this
I have
series.
heard-
There's a lot of movies that we're not covering that I thought we would be, but we're covering The Firm.
Yeah, we're not covering Turner and Hooch, but we're covering The Firm.
So we'll see.
To be fair, The Firm is Sidney Pollack. Like
it's
I'm
Sidney
sure that
Pollack,
it's gonna fucking
and it's
rule.
it's a John
It's a Robert-
Grisham.
Yeah, it's a
adaptation.
Robert Towne screenplay. Like
That's the most
The Firm's gonna
90s.
rule.
That is the most 90s shit ever. Tom Cruise, John Grisham, Sidney Pollack, legal thriller. Like
Let's do
that's
it.
the full Venn diagram of 90s.
Mhm. Well, and then this other one is the rest of the Venn diagram of 90s.
Philadelphia
Yeah, the two biggest movie stars of the 90s,
with Denzel.
or at least best, in my opinion.
Yeah.
I've definitely seen Philadelphia a long time ago because I think that's a mom movie. I think my mom is really into Philadelphia.
Moms love AIDS.
Yeah.
Moms do love AIDS. I feel
Moms
like
love
this
to
is.
cry because AIDS sad.
You know what's funny is I'm pretty sure I've seen Philadelphia too. Not the sequel to Philadelphia. I've seen Philadelphia as well. I've seen Philadelphia, but it was like on TNT and like crazily edited down to whatever the bare bones is of Philadelphia. And I'm sure that
they made it about shingles.
the polio crisis. Polio crisis.
He's got scabies. He's a goner. Excited for that. Never seen Philadelphia. Heard mixed things about its general, disposition on the subject. But
I think at the time it was regarded as very progressive.
yeah, it was like, whoa, they did a movie about it.
They
Yeah,
talked
yeah.
about AIDS in the early 90s.
So interested regardless. Demi's always an interesting director. He's
I
he's
forgot
got
it's
the best.
yeah, he's a guy
Fucking
he's a guy who
best.
makes
I
choices.
mean that movie's going to be at least an 8. Like, come on.
Facts.
Demi's
Um,
absolute king.
Sleepless in Seattle, killer, absolute stone cold killer of a movie.
I don't think I've ever seen it.
Two actors
Classic.
that have phenomenal chemistry, literally not being together for the whole movie. Spoiler alert! Like they're in like different places. Look at the cover. Look at
Right.
the poster. Awesome fucking.
One's
movie.
in
It's-
Sleepless and the other one's in Seattle.
Tom Hanks and Meg Ryan are just kind of inextricably linked throughout the 90s too, in a really cool way.
Yeah, I mean, it starts
obviously,
with Joe
eventually
versus
linking
Volcano.
back up.
We're
in
covering the
late 90s.
the full triplet
Yep.
with Volcano, Sleepless, and You've Got Mail later on.
Meg
I-
Ryan is so awesome.
Dude, Meg
She
Ryan.
was
She's the
Go,
best.
dude.
she was on another planet of good.
Also, wait, are we covering 3 Nora Ephron films? Or is it just 2?
Sleepless, You've Got Mail.
oh,
and which
she
one?
she did Eyes Wide Shut.
Yo. After Sleepless, it's a movie I just saw for the first time, and I cannot wait for you guys to see. Interview with the Vampire.
I'm really I've seen this movie whenever I was like a really young kid, like 10 or younger.
very
I'm excited to watch it.
It's a
again.
movie about 2 gay dads and their lesbian daughter,
that rules.
and they all are immortal because they're all vampires.
Damn. And then, very similarly, you have Forrest Gump.
So at a little bit of a crossroads right here for
Yeah.
our two boys.
Forrest Gump is going to be really fun.
The same
we
year,
should watch. We
94.
should watch Forrest Gump together
I would love
because
to.
that movie is so funny to watch.
I've caught it on cable a couple
It's-
times recently.
People love to think really hard about that movie.
you know what we should do?
Guess what? It's stupid. Grow up.
You know what? We have to watch.
It's great.
We have to watch Forrest Gump together, and then we have to go down to Universal City Walk and eat at Bubba Gump.
Bubba Gump.
We have to eat at Bubba Gump Shrimp
Let's do
together
it.
as a family, as
Let's
a pod
do it.
family.
The amount of shit that movie got, especially like in retrospect, but toward the early 20th century or 21st century. Do you know how much I would kill for a movie like Forrest Gump to sweep the world right now?
Right.
But
it has to be about like millennials. It has to be like the millennial victory lap.
You know what sucks?
you mean the beach bum?
Yeah. No, you know what would be the modern millennial movie It's the Mark Wahlberg 9/11 movie. That's the Forrest Gump.
Well, no, it's that, but with the tone of something like Green Book. Like that is
That's
what
the most cursed movie.
Yeah. And that's why we as a society need to burn. That's what we're going on strike for. That's what the studios
Mark
want.
Wahlberg has to like go through all the major 90s and early 2000s events before he saves 9/11.
At what point in the series do we abandon the two Toms and we go to a Mark Wahlberg series?
Mark Wahlberg failing to stop every tragedy that happens over several decades. He fails to stop Waco and then like the Oklahoma City bombing.
He's like about to stop Kurt Cobain from shooting himself. He's like right there. He's like around the corner.
That'd be awesome.
That is so close.
Yeah.
So then Apollo 13.
He's like
would
he's in like Dade
Mark Wahlberg
County
have
during
prevented-
the Bush election results, like trying his best to count the ballots and just fucking up so hard.
Oh no!
Start again. You hear me? You start again.
He's like I no,
If that sad is fucking hanging, throw it out.
Come on, buddy. I just want you to count the votes.
So
buddy.
next up, Apollo 13, one of the classic films, you know, of the
a Ron Howard film.
When I think-
this is the Great Splash reunion.
a Central Florida featured film actually shot here.
Oh, are we nominating
And Cape
this
Canaveral?
for the Hall of Fame?
Well, I did.
Oh, good.
Yeah.
I
It
didn't
got some
realize that
love.
until right now.
Yeah, it was actually, well, part of it, at least, was filmed at the Kennedy Space Center.
I love that.
great movie, one of the better movies that you might get to see in school, you know, in like high school.
Hey,
Yeah.
you know, I'm a space guy. I'm all for space. I think this is the only space movie on this whole series. So I'm all in on space.
Until Mission Dead Reckoning Part 2.
So we
Right.
get a Lieutenant Dan double feature. We get a little Sinise miniseries right in the middle here with Forrest Gump and
Right.
then Apollo.
That's right.
Excited for
Nice.
that.
Yeah. Shout out to Kevin Bacon too in there.
Oh, that's it's just a great, that movie just
Banger.
like co-sunk cast. It's
Right.
crazy. It's
Absolute
so
banger.
peak Tom. Speaking of Toy Story,
Big
quite
episode.
possibly like my favorite movie of all time. Like
One of
it's
the goats.
it's just one of the greatest things ever created.
very
Incredible. Can't wait.
Gonna be fun to talk about, particularly because the technique and like true effort that Tom puts into like putting forward like a genuine real voice acting performance.
Which he doesn't ever do again. Has he ever voiced I know Cruise has never voiced an animated character.
I don't think. I mean, I feel like if Hanks tried to do another, like, at least not a leading role as an animated voice, you'd just be like, why is Woody talking right now?
Exactly.
Like it's kind of hard to separate a voice from a actor.
Are we
from a
counting
major
Polar
movie star.
Express?
We'll talk. I never count Polar Express. Notably
Famously.
left off this list. No, I'm really excited to talk
he did
about.
voice himself in the Simpsons movie,
Cool.
2007.
I'm excited to talk about that movie also just because, I mean, in 1995 being at this point AAA list actor.
This is my, we're in the middle of my favorite stretch of movies in this whole thing. It might be these four, at least to talk about is going to be Forrest Gump, Apollo 13, Toy Story, and then Jerry Maguire, which is it's become one of my favorite movies ever.
It's so good.
It is one of the most perfect like movies you could ever.
One of
I
the
can't
most
even
quotable
describe how-
movies
Yeah.
ever made.
Cameron Crowe, like, get on whatever drug you were on, man. Like, watch that and then watch We Bought a Zoo.
He needs to sell his zoo is the problem.
Right.
He bought that zoo and he can't
It's
think
just-
straight. He's got to take care of all these
probably
animals.
the most quotable movie of this
I
whole
know.
thing. When I was making the intro for the series,
You're
I'm
like, which one do you choose?
Yeah. Do you show me the money? I actually ended up picking two because I put. Well, we'll see how the final version actually turns out. But as of now,
did you put "I love black people" in there? Iconic Cruise quote.
that one's like slowed down throughout the entire.
That is
thing.
What does he say?
that's
What does
the
he
base
say
note.
about pussy in that movie? You remember?
I
He
don't
says,
remember.
Cuba makes him say some shit in that movie. Cuba really is bullying
It's
Tom.
the best.
Academy Award winner.
That is one of my favorite movies ever.
I think
It's like
Jerry,
a perfect every like 18 months I throw on Jerry Maguire. It's a comfort movie.
Jerry Maguire has the chance to be like maybe top 2, 3. It might be the best movie of the whole series.
I mean, it is proof positive that Tom Cruise has something else in him other than what people know him for. Like he is on another level of great in that movie.
I mean, of all these movies, it probably is. Well, maybe Toy Story aside, the number 1 seed. Like maybe you do like Toy Story, Jerry Maguire.
Yeah,
and
they're
then,
like an
take your pick for
opposite.
number
Yeah,
3.
it's just it's because it's the thing of like, even if you haven't seen it, you know the lines, you know the cultural impact. I think we need to get the Zoomers up on Jerry Maguire because I feel like a lot of it translates. Like it's just a great movie.
At this point,
the chemistry.
At this point, Tom Hanks has already won both Oscars. He won an Oscar for Philadelphia and for Forrest Gump. Cruise should have won for Jerry.
this
Maguire.
is his 3rd nomination. We're talking about the 2 other nominations, right?
Um,
Yeah, because it was Born the 4th
well,
of July.
we've already covered Magnolia.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah,
And then we're talking about
there's
Born
an
the 4th of
episode
July.
on Magnolia on the feed already. I didn't want to redo that movie. A lot of people were
Revisit.
asking, "Where's Magnolia?" We've already covered it.
Respect the cock.
Yeah, Team McCon. Then Mission Impossible.
Mm-hmm. That'll be a fun one.
Which is just like
They're making more of those.
I've heard. Yeah, that's
No.
the plan.
Have you ever seen the first Mission Impossible movie, Drew? I didn't think so.
It's a great movie.
It's a Brian De Palma film.
It's a great fucking movie.
No, I don't think so. I think I saw a good amount of 2, and I thought it was so stupid.
Well,
Well, too
we're
stupid.
getting there, brother.
We're also covering.
Okay, all right. Hey,
Okay. The first Mission Impossible is very important because it's the first movie that Tom Cruise produces. And up until this point, he'd been learning from a ton of masters. You know, you've got Scorsese, Reiner, Oliver Stone, Barry Levinson. So he's been modeling his career after like trying to absorb from these directors, and now he's going to apply it to his own franchise. He's like, Tom Cruise is Mission Impossible. We're going all in on this, and it worked. Obviously, that's where he is now, all these years later.
It's going to be really cool because we're going to have the conversation wherever we get there. But the 1-2 of Jerry Maguire and Mission Impossible in the same year might be
Insane.
It might be the greatest 2 movie like hit in ever. Like it's when you think about
from an
the
actor,
from just a single actor, the breadth of what both of those 2 movies are able to bring across in his movie stardom.
Exactly.
then we got Hank's triple threat here.
Directing and writing, That Thing You Do, and starring.
I'd say probably
That Thing You
probably
Do.
has a writing credit on there.
Never seen it. Very excited to check it out.
Oh, sole writing credit.
Let's go. Wow. So this is his
Yeah, this
This is
was
baby.
his thing.
This was his
wow.
blank check.
Holy crap.
Tommy
He
baby.
wins 2 Oscars and he's like, I'm going to do That Thing You Do.
That Thing You Do.
With all the money from Toy Story. Wow. Amazing.
Straight into SPV.
Yeah. Saving Private
SPR.
Ryan, which as a teenager, you know, learning to love movies. I mean, I loved movies since before I was a teenager, but like really understanding what it meant to love movies. This one was the one that I really attached myself to and rewatched over and over. I mean, I wore that DVD out so much. Very excited to rewatch it after all these years. I haven't seen it in a long time. But that's his first collaboration with Spielberg, which would go on to, you know, be, you know, a very strong thread in the later part of Hank's career, in the kind of the 2000s era. Then he's back with Meg Ryan with You've Got Mail.
Yeah. And this is, I'll say, it's a good use of him at this point in his career because his age is showing at this point. Like by the time we get to You've Got Mail, he's playing an asshole again. Like he's playing like a gruff kind of dick.
He's now in his mid-40s.
Well,
certain
in Private Ryan, he is kind of like the dad of the crew.
Yeah, exactly. And then in You've Got Mail, like there are it's the first time you start seeing some takes where like his face is kind of making you laugh in ways that it's not supposed to. Because like, you know, he doesn't have the look of people you typically see in movies anymore by this point. And now he uses that to his best advantage in Elvis.
Right. He's right.
Absolutely. I'm excited for You've Got Mail because as I remember seeing it whenever I was like a teenager, and that's a movie that, I mean, obviously it's playing on the AOL You've Got Mail thing, but it's one of those things that embraces the time that it's in so much to the point that it is actually kind of aged well. I felt this way about 10 years ago. I'm excited to like dive back in now and see if I still feel that way.
What you're going to find is about half of the jokes in They Came Together are You've Got Mail jokes.
Yeah.
There's so much. He is the corporate overlord who's like killing her small
Killing
business
her
where
candy
everything's
shop.
free. Yeah. It's that.
Excited.
And it's awesome.
Then is one of the most important movies of all time, Eyes Wide Shut, a movie I just
Our
saw.
first Kubrick that we'll ever talk about in this podcast feed.
We've dabbled here and
Not
there.
really. Like, I mean, maybe like a catch up, throw off, talk about
2001.
Barry Lyndon for 5 minutes or something like that. But
yeah, this will be like the first like full episode. Stanley Kubrick's final film.
Yeah.
Final film, 1999, Eyes Wide Shut. Tom Cruise, Nicole Kidman. Very excited to see this movie again. As with all Kubrick movies, it's one where you definitely get more out of it with rewatches. I've only seen it the one time, and it's very weird, very bizarre.
it's very mean.
Yeah.
It's a very mean movie, which is going to be, especially I think as we're turning the corner here towards the end of this might be like refreshing.
Yeah.
We might be as sick of looking at Tom Cruise's face as Kubrick was by the end of this.
Then Mission Impossible 2, which I felt necessary to cover because it is so wildly different from Mission Impossible 1. It almost feels like an entirely different thing. The only thing in common is the Ethan Hunt character and the title of the movie. But it feels like this is a different breed of cruise.
Quite possibly the most 2000 movie ever made.
Limp Bizkit, exploding
Everything,
sunglasses.
the John Woo of it all is just...
I'm excited.
I'm excited. Listen, once again, Robert Towne wrote the screenplay, guys. You actually can't say anything bad about the script of Mission Impossible 2 because Robert Towne wrote it.
Then Castaway, which is a lovely film. Very
Yeah.
sad.
Another sort of its time,
Yeah.
just legendary. Like it made like $430 million,
And it's just one guy.
and it's just about a guy who's stuck. And this is the power of the Hanks.
I know.
If it were Tom Cruise on that island, I don't know if I would care if he lived or died.
I'd hope he died, maybe, just to see what happens, just to see if he'd come back.
It would be compelling to see.
See if he rises from the dead.
It would be compelling to see him try, but you wouldn't get that sense that you get from Hanks and
You
Castaway. of
want
like-
him to come back.
Well, you
so
also
bad.
you just watching him, you're like, yeah, I would probably do some stuff like that, man.
Right.
Like you're doing a
Yeah.
pretty good job.
Yeah, you're trying.
With Hanks, he would be like, I have to make fire. Like he'd be really into
Cruise, you mean?
Yeah,
God
Cruz.
damn
He'd be
it.
These
so
fucking
obsessive.
Toms, man.
I know.
You did this to
But-
us. But it's interesting, like going into this final act, you are really starting to see where one star started to burn a little bit brighter in the beginning. Like we're starting this series off with 3 Cruise movies. Cruise movies at the end here get a little bit dicier. It's starting to kind of set the stage of what 21st century Cruise looks like.
Exactly. Yeah, shaky. Yeah, because then you got Vanilla Sky
Which is
reuniting with Cameron Crowe.
it's trying to recapture the magic of Jerry Maguire, and that movie is does not work.
yeah.
Interesting. That reading the sort of the synopsis of it, it strikes me as like an earnest movie.
It is a sci-fi trash-ish movie, but when you sit down and watch it, it's just so all over the place. It's like, what is even happening?
I wouldn't.
Very
The
melodramatic.
person I would not tap to make this movie is Cameron Crowe,
Yeah.
based on
It's-
its premise.
I mean, we'll see.
I wouldn't be
It's-
like, hey, you know who should make this is Cameron Crowe.
I haven't seen it since I was like a cynical 16-year-old, but I was like, this movie's hot garbage. So we'll see if my opinion's changed on it.
I mean, it'll at
Post
least
We
be
Bought a Zoo.
it'll at least be interesting to see this era of Cruise trying something like Vanilla Sky, because this is his like I want to win an Oscar era.
Yeah.
Magnolia, Eyes Wide Shut, like he wants it. He didn't get it for Jerry Maguire, and he's like, I fucking need this shit. Let's fucking go.
So then he's like, all right, fine, I'll be in another Kubrick movie. And then Kubrick goes and dies, and so he's in another Spielberg movie.
Minority Report.
Mm-hmm.
I think
This movie rocks.
low key one of the best Spielberg.
I agree with you wholeheartedly. I think
Incredible movie.
we talked about it a little bit whenever we did Fablemans, and we talked briefly about Spielberg's career, but the AI Minority Report, Catch Me If You Can, period, of Spielberg's career is like
The precog.
honestly like might be my one of the best periods of Spielberg's entire career.
And then another one. We end with a double Spielberg with Catch Me If You Can. So Spielberg works with Cruise and Hanks in the same year.
You know,
he
maybe
comes out with these two movies.
maybe we could try and get Steven on the pod, talk about who is better on set.
I'll hit him up. He might be busy.
Yeah.
Prepping his new one.
Yeah, see if he's interested in
I
subscribing
know
to
he
Patreon.
likes me because I stood up for him.
Oh, he'll come and talk to just you.
He'll know that
He'll be
I
like,
was
"Is
on
that
his
fucker
corner."
Drew who said that I was washed?" Okay, come on here. He'll like me because I understand that Ready Player One was a
Right.
misunderstood
He'll
masterpiece.
be like, "What is that?"
You guys have it so fucking wrong. He's gonna thank me because I lit a fire under his fucking ass.
Yeah.
He was like, "You're right."
It's like I needed to prove
I
him
was
wrong.
slipping. Like bro was like in the hotel room while his first AD was like shooting main cast scenes in like in those movies. So excited to meet Steven. I invite him onto the pod. Fucking tell me about how The Post is really great, Steven. I'd love to hear it. Tell me about Ready Player One. It's certainly stood the test of like 6 months.
Oof. So yeah, the final movie on the list is Catch Me If You Can. That's the capper, and it'll be poetic to see like here's Leonardo DiCaprio, the new star.
Sort of an interesting in between of Hanks and Cruise. DiCaprio originally was because he had the intensity and like the drive. He was very pretty. He had a relatability to him while also clearly being a fucking movie star.
Yeah.
You know, like there's sort of an in between. Now he's not reachable. You know what I mean? He's
He's gonna pass the torch over to our new A-list movie star Jesse Plemons this year.
Plum Dog. So there you have it. That is 26 movies, 13 Cruise, and 13 Hanks. This is a tale of two Toms, aka Tom v. Tom, aka Cruisemas with the Hanks.
Can you scrub that last one that you just said? Otherwise, yes.
Starting next week with Top Gun and continuing almost every week. We'll see. We'll see what happens with anything else, with Best of the Year, with fall movies. But we are going to try to keep it consistent. We got a whole slew of guests lined up for all of these. I think there's only maybe 2 or 3 that it'll just be the 3 of us, but it's going to be great. It's going to be a lot of fun. As we wind down, any other final thoughts, expectations? What do we think? How do we think this thing is going to shake out in comparison to this is now our 3rd series to the last 2?
I'm gonna say this is gonna be our best one yet because we're talking about the best movies.
Yeah, honestly.
Yeah. Although I did really push for us to cover the most important Tom Hanks movies, getting back to his roots as a little Catholic boy, the Da Vinci Code trilogy, but I was denied for those. So,
well, I was denied The Terminal. So
you were pushing for The Terminal.
That's probably racist.
And I said, I will quit this podcast.
It's funny, like going back to the beginning when I read out the 90s run, it's like it starts to peter out with like Road to Perdition, The Lady Killers, and then it's like, oh, The Terminal, it is done. The run is done.
Yeah. You can mark it.
And then Polar Express after that. We're just in a ditch. Yeah, I mean, once you start to look at the late 2000s and the 2010s, it's like
the aughts killed our boys.
Yeah, these guys are
they killed our boys.
It would have been interesting. I know it would have been an odd number, but I'm pretty sure that Cruise's next movie after Minority Report is War of the Worlds. Is that right?
Yeah, I believe so.
That is really the movie that kind of kills Cruise's career, because that's the thing where like,
well, Collateral.
Oh, Collateral! That, god damn it, dude!
And the
Collateral's so fucking
and
good.
The Last Samurai.
Did you guys hear that in an original draft of the script, his name is Vincent Collateral? I'm not joking.
That rules so hard.
Michael Mann is awesome.
See, this is why Michael Mann is like one of our great artists ever.
Vincent Collateral.
Vincent Collateral is the coolest thing I've ever heard in my life.
Yeah, I saw that the other day.
Man,
My name is Josh Big.
Collateral absolutely owns, but War of the Worlds is really the one where it's just like, oh, Spielberg now hates this guy and doesn't want to work with Cruise anymore. What's
And
wrong
they never
with him?
did.
Yeah,
They never did.
R.I.P.
But maybe Steven will bring our boys together. Maybe that's how this all ends.
What's the movie? What's the pitch?
I
It's
mean,
Dead Reckoning Part 2. Hanks
Steven-
is joining the fold. McQuarrie's taking a back seat.
no, Steven will be like Clint Eastwood right now. Like he'll be like 90 years old, like barely able to speak. And then our two Toms, our boys, they'll just be, wrinkly old men. One of them, they'll be like bitter rivals that are trying to rekindle some kind of lost friendship,
Just give me like a Malcolm and Marie style film, but with our two Toms.
Yeah,
They should fuck.
that would be great.
They fuck.
Malcolm and Marie.
Like maybe. Okay,
A
here's
nice
the pitch.
small feature film
Here's
of
the,
like, man, I hope this
so
couple
funny.
makes it.
they reunite after not speaking to each other for like decades, and there was this horrible falling out, and slowly throughout the movie you start to unpeel like what happened, and you detangle this whole mess. There was like a legal battle and women were involved and the money and all these things, and it was just these two guys who just needed to love each other this whole time. That's your movie.
I don't know about
Call me
that.
Steven.
I do want both Tom Cruise and Tom Hanks to get back into a courtroom.
Okay.
Two of our great like legal drama actors. Get them back in a courtroom. Let's bring back courtroom dramas.
All right.
Aaron Sorkin, where are you at?
Well, we can wrap it up there. I do want to make an announcement on the podcast. Okay. We are launching our Patreon officially, patreon.com/weboughtamic, slowly rolling it out. Freebies, merch, goodies, exclusive bonus episodes, and little behind the scenes clips. Sometimes we chat here and the mics are recording and I just throw away all that audio. So sometimes I might just throw it up on the Patreon if you subscribe. And you'll get to vote on some of these special episodes. So get in there, get in on the Patreon, support the hard work that goes into the show as we continue to grow it. It is our 6-year anniversary. So congrats, boys, on 6 years. Congrats on all the hard work.
Wowzers.
And
Hey, look at us now.
Yeah,
Mom.
we'll continue to be letting you know about the Patreon as we build it out throughout this series. And support the hard work, get some freebies, get some extras. WBAM Plus Extra Max.
Mm-hmm.
It's actually just called Max. We're taking the WBAM out of it.
And please rate, review, subscribe, like, comment. Let us know your thoughts, expectations on the Hanks and Cruise series. Next week, it's time. It all starts with Top Gun. Take care. We love you. Bye.
Bye.